it was about the young Rockets and what they did. A lot of the talk throughout the year was about Ime Udoka. Tough coach, old school, no more of that players coach stuff, the softness that was Stephen Silas, because if you couldn't take a shot at Stephen Silas, what were you even doing talking about the Rockets? It was just part of the equation. Ime Udoka gets mentioned. You managed to work in a stray at Stephen Silas. Well, the media asked Ime Udoka yesterday about how his young team took to his tough coaching, and this is what he said.
I mean, I think it was pretty immediate. We spent a good amount of time in the offseason together, and so that was never a secret. They understood that coming in, but it wasn't like I was just coaching them for the first time once we started in preseason. They understand who I am, and we've had a ton of conversations leading into the season. So, that's the coaching piece. As far as the benchings or whatever it is, I think guys understand what they do on the court is going to be rewarded. And so, I said at the start of the year, like roles and minutes and those things are not handed out anymore, and guys will compete for those. And when you do the right things, you'll be on the court. And so it wasn't always a case of what some guys didn't do as much as what the others did.
As soon as he started making jokes, not in this, obviously not in that clip, as soon as he started making jokes, I was, okay, he's in a good mood. I would have said, did you call any players what you call LeBron? Did you call any of your players soft-ass boys at any point? Or was that reserved for one of the greatest players to ever play the game? How tough were you?
That's for the opposition.
Yeah. What do you call your players when you want to get their attention or where you think they're not being tough enough? Because we heard him after the Golden State game. He pretty much said the lights are too bright for that team. Some guys showed up. Most of the team didn't. So I wonder what the particular phrases he used when he wanted to get his message across. But that question wasn't asked. I'm just a rabble-rouser and a bleep starter. And I don't cover the team on a daily basis. It doesn't help any of those guys to ask that question. You needed someone who maybe only would be out there once, well, at the end of the year to get that question off. So Ime Udoka.
Are you comparing yourself to Outkick at the women's Final
I
Four?
was going to say that, but I didn't want to. Hey, good pull by you. I wanted to say it, but I was like, nah, I don't want to compare myself.
Ask your one question that gets clicks in the league.
And then run out of there. Yeah, that was a thought as I was going through it. But I didn't want to compare myself to Outkick.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're dead on because it was in my brain.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just didn't want to do it myself as a thought rolled through. Credit to Sean for that one.
ESPN 97.5's Clay Travis.
Ooh.
Not who you think it would be.
Oof.
not
yeah, surprisingly enough. Well, I guess I would be
You'd be the last pick.
Yeah.
You'd be the last pick.
To anyone who got compared to Clay Travis, I certainly would be the last pick. The guy who sits to the right from 7 to 10, maybe the first pick. You never know. Just watch ESPN YouTube if you want to know who ESPN Houston on YouTube if you want to know who I was referencing. But also, Rafael Stone was there. He got a contract extension. He's got to feel pretty good. Now, this happened earlier in the year. It was just reported yesterday. So he's got to feel pretty good. And he put together a roster that had some questions about it. Why are you paying Fred VanVleet that type of money? Why are you paying Dylan Brooks that type of money? And did you make the right picks? Well, he's got some contract concerns coming up here. It's a discussion we've had throughout the year. And here's Rafael Stone discussing potential contracts for Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green.
Hold on, I don't have that one.
He doesn't have that one, ladies and gentlemen. That's fine. He is a producer. I understand what that's like. And he's also got a phone call to deal with, so it's getting busy in there for Sean. If you want to call in, once again, 713-780-3776. It'll be an interesting thing for the Rockets this offseason. How are they going to address those contracts? What's the timeline for them? And here's Rafael Stone talking about it.
I'm not we won't engage. I just, if you want to have a relationship with them, it's based on communication. So we will definitely talk about them. The way the CBA is set up, you can extend, you don't have to, and you can always revisit next summer. So in that sense, there's no gun to our head or anything else. We'll have conversations. We'll see what makes sense for us, what makes sense for them. And then both sides will end up, making whatever decisions we make. So I would say it's an opportunity to have good discussions with them. We look forward to that, but not feeling like it's a burden or a crushing pressure or anything like that.
So no urgency or no need for urgency, at least from Rafael Stone's point of view. What the players will feel like, we'll see. What their agents will try to get done, that's a different discussion. But the Rockets are not in a mode where they feel like they need to pay either of those guys right now.
And that's the right, at least the right strategy to project is that, I don't know.
I mean, hey, we can take this to the take this to the limit.
Pay next year.
Yeah,
Hey,
or not.
Be good for one more year.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the Nico Collins situation where it's like,
Yeah, and
if we want to pay you, we can. But I mean, has Alperen Şengün or Jalen Green really been so good that they're a no doubt about it? You know, at well, now it's not 12:01, but you know, at the first minute of free agency, there's a Woj tweet about they've extended them for the max. You know, like they're not that guy.
yeah, there's a lot of they're not.
I had 2 references for that.
Already. What a show we're having. They're not the types where this is an obvious yes. I know everyone's high on Şengün, and Jalen Green's month of March may change the perspective on what he can possibly be. But they didn't even make the play-in. Now, the West was really good. You needed to win like 46 games, and there's some sound we'll hear from Rafael Stone and Ime Udoka about why this team wasn't a play-in / playoff team, and some of it has to do with the lack of consistency. But you didn't even make the play-in, so why are we investing this much? Prove yourselves. And if you are shown to be 2 centerpieces, although you can only be really 1 centerpiece, I guess, two building blocks, I'll say, 2 building blocks to a playoff team and a contender, and you prove that, great. We'll have a real discussion. There'll be some urgency, and obviously the Rockets have the protection of restricted free agency. So they can let those guys go out and find a deal and then match it if they want. Or they can tell the world, hey, no matter what NBA team thinks they're going to pay one of these guys, we're going to match. That is the protection they have following this upcoming season. And then the offseason, if they don't get an extension done, hey, go search out a deal. And if you get it, we'll just match it, and we're going to be fine.
It also makes them easier to trade if we're going to trade them.
That's true.
Before the deadline for perhaps a star, which they talked about. They also Stone talked about where he was like, well, not necessarily star chasing, but
star browsing.
Star browsing, yeah.
Okay.
He basically was like, there's not a ton of urgency to go out and add, which was kind of what's been talked about. It was talked about at the trade deadline where there's some report about how aggressively they're going to pursue, veteran for trade targets, and then they traded for Steven Adams, who isn't going to play.
He is a veteran, though, Sean.
He is a veteran, but I think they framed it as to make a playoff push.
Yeah.
And then they didn't do it.
They traded for a guy who wasn't going to play the rest of the way. Yeah.
And then ever since then, there's been that because the Donovan Mitchell stuff, rumors have kind of started up in overtime, I guess, that are really cranking them out. The thought is, what kind of star would they trade for in the offseason? And it's just interesting that Stone's like, we'll see. I don't know.
Well, if they better aim higher than the Mikal Bridges we saw this season.
Oh yeah,
that was a name that was floated around, as you mentioned, around the All-Star break, and that Mikal Bridges, who is probably a good 3 on a very good team, that's what he was in Phoenix, pretty much.
Would you? I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this the other day, thinking about the Mikal Bridges thing and how he was almost traded for Jalen Green and a bunch of
multiple
picks.
first rounders.
Would you trade him right now? Would you trade him for like Tari Eason straight up?
I don't want to.
Like that.
I don't want to be disrespectful to Mikal Bridges. He is a good player, but the Rockets, if they're making trades for veterans, I think are making a trade for a star.
Yeah, I'm saying
a real star.
I'm not saying who's better. I'm just saying with the contract situation.
I'm not paying.
Yeah, I don't think you'd trade. And it's crazy how 2 bad months.
Yeah, the Mikal Bridges we saw this season is far different from the one we saw in the back half of 2022-23 when he was traded from Phoenix in the exchange for Kevin Durant. That guy, I would trade Tari Eason and Jalen Green for. And maybe throw in a pick too. But the one we're seeing now
it's like,
actually no, you're a bit piece on a good team, and you weren't even good enough to keep the Nets in contention. Beat it. I'm not making a trade for you right now.
I haven't seen any Instagram lives where he says Warriors come out and play.
All he wants to do is,
to me, that's points off.
all he wants to do is join his buddies in New York with the Knicks.
Do a podcast.
He will love to be part of that Nova group in New York for the Knicks as opposed to being in Brooklyn. So that's probably where his interest lies, and that's fine. He wants to be like a third or fourth on a good basketball team. The Rockets, as I said, should be aiming higher. La Raza, I see you. You want to talk about Rockets? Anybody else want to talk about the end of the Rockets season and what was said? There's more sound to get to, as I said, including what the two luminaries yesterday believe kept the Rockets out of the playoffs. We'll get into some Champions League. I always like to close an arc. We talked about Champions League last week around this time. Great games yesterday. A lot of goals scored. The two Spanish powers are out. And Kylian Mbappe did something that anybody who's going to join Real Madrid should do to Barcelona. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But La Raza, I see you. We'll get to you when we come back.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's the Olaleye Show
on ESPN 97.5